Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into one of Netflix's most talked about shows, Unknown Number, the high school messaging scandal. But we're not just going to talk about the scandal itself. Instead, we're going to focus on a figure who stands at the very center of this story, yet remains somewhat hidden in the background. The victim's mother, Kendra Licari. We're going to break down her actions, her mindset, and try to understand her psychology. Because the real question here isn't just what happened, but why did it happen? How does a mother, someone expected to protect, nurture, and guide, end up playing such a destructive role in her child's life? That's what we'll be uncovering today. So grab a drink, get comfortable, and let's step into the complex and often dark psychology of Kendra Licari. To understand Kendra, we need to start with the basics. The scandal begins in a high school. Students start receiving disturbing, threatening messages. At first, no one knows who's behind them. The harassment escalates, drawing in parents, school officials, and eventually the entire community. And then, in a shocking twist, the messages are traced back to none other than Kendra Licari, the mother of one of the victims. This raises an immediate question. Why? Why would a mother target her own child and other students in such a destructive way? The surface-level answer is that Kendra was struggling, overwhelmed, or maybe even acting out of spite. But the deeper answer lies in her psychology, in her identity as a mother, and in the hidden conflicts within her mind. That's where we're headed next. Motherhood is one of the most powerful roles a person can take on. It carries with it love, sacrifice, and protection. But it also carries pressure, fear, and sometimes control. For Kendra Licari, motherhood seems to have been more than just raising a child. It became part of her identity, perhaps even the whole of it. When someone builds their entire sense of self around being a parent, things can become unbalanced. The child no longer exists as an independent person, but as a reflection of the parent's own needs, insecurities, and desires. So here's a question for you. If a parent loses themselves in the role of being the mother, does the child stop being a child and instead become a mirror? A mirror of everything the parent can't face within themselves? With Kendra, we begin to see how her internal conflicts, her need for control, her anxieties, her fear of losing relevance, played out through her child's life in destructive ways. So, let's take a closer look at her psychological traits. Manipulation. Kendra actively shaped how others perceived her. She controlled the narrative, at least for a time. Control. The need to dominate her child's world, and by extension, the community's attention. Guilt and denial. Even when caught, she seemed locked in a cycle of justifying or minimizing her actions. These patterns point to possible personality tendencies. While we can't diagnose, the behaviors echo elements of narcissistic traits where image and control outweigh empathy. We also see hints of dependent tendencies, where a person can't function without leaning heavily on the existence of someone else, often a child. And then, there's the darker possibility. Borderline tendencies, where fear of abandonment and unstable identity can lead to extreme behaviors. The important point is this: Kendra wasn't simply acting out of malice. She was acting out of a deep psychological need, a need that twisted motherhood into something harmful. But Kendra's psychology doesn't exist in a vacuum. We also need to consider the social context. She lived in a small-town environment. In these places, reputation matters. Everyone knows everyone, and everyone watches everyone. The pressure to appear perfect, to keep up appearances, can be overwhelming. Add to this the dynamics within her family. Stress in her marriage, financial strain, or unresolved personal trauma. All of these could have created a perfect storm. So what happens when a person feels powerless in their own life? They seek control somewhere else. And for Kendra, that control manifested in her child's world. She turned her daughter's struggles into an extension of her own inner war. It wasn't just about messages. It was about image, status, and the desperate need to maintain power where she could. And now we get to the heart of it, the child. Imagine being a teenager, already navigating the pressures of high school, social status, academic expectations, friendships, and identity. Now add to that anonymous, threatening messages. Fear builds, anxiety grows, trust erodes. But then imagine discovering that the person behind those messages isn't a stranger. It isn't a bully, it isn't an enemy. It's your own mother. This is where the deepest wound forms. For any child, a parent represents safety. They are the anchor in a chaotic world. When that anchor is ripped away, the damage can last a lifetime. The psychological scars include severe trust issues, anxiety and panic disorders, social withdrawal, and in many cases, long-term depression. Kendra didn't just betray her child in the moment. She planted seeds of trauma that could grow for years to come. So what do we learn from Kendra Licari's story? We learn that every parent carries their own inner struggles, but when those struggles are ignored, denied, or hidden, they don't disappear. They resurface, often in the most destructive ways. Kendra's actions were catastrophic, not only for her community, but most tragically, for her own child. And they remind us that the line between protection and control, between love and possession, can be dangerously thin. So I'll leave you with a question. If you were in her place, desperate, afraid of losing control, what choices would you have made? Would you have found a healthier outlet, or fallen into the same destructive path? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want more deep psychological breakdowns of true crime stories and media portrayals. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.